Am kind of obsessed with why it feels so hard to be ambitious and take care of yourself. Why does it feel like these have to be on separate sides of the spectrum? And why are we so obsessed with hustle culture and achieving this version of success that maybe you haven't defined for yourself? And not obsessed with making sure that every day you're waking up and feeling good about who you are and what you're doing, even if you're having a bad day. And today's episode, we are going to get deep into the mindset and the balance and how to be high performing while also taking care of yourself, because that is what today's guest is all about. I'm so excited to introduce you to Ryann Gillen, who is a high performance coach, master consultant, and sales expert with a proven track record of transforming theoretical concepts into practical, tactical results. And if that sounds theoretical, don't worry, we're going to make it tangible in today's episode. With decades of experience building multi-million dollar sales teams, Ryann brings her experience to her role as the chief activator and lead consultant for Soul Charge, where she empowers leaders to achieve results through alignment, focus, and radical ownership. Her unique approach blends mindset, energy work, and strategic execution, allowing her clients to achieve rapid, purpose driven results. And her passion lies in helping leaders not only meet their goals, but push beyond their perceived limits to redefine what's possible. And you know, we are all about redefining things around here. She has a history of pushing boundaries and a refusal to settle for anything less than excellence. Ryann leads by example, inspiring those that she works with to do the same. Her experience, coupled with her passion for unlocking the potential in others, makes her an unstoppable force in the world of consulting and conscious leadership. And I am so excited for Ryann to inspire me and you today. Ryann, welcome so much to the Becoming Obsessed podcast.
I am so excited to be here, Teresa. Thank you so much.
One phrase that just stood out to me as I'm reading this, it feels powerful to read, but
Mm.
there's this phrase in here about your refusal to settle for anything less than excellent. And as I say it, it's like, yes, ambition. And also, how do I make sure that I'm not putting my own self care and self on the line as I'm striving for excellence? So I just want to jump right in and say first, how do we define excellence? What is excellence, that word mean when you're saying that and when you're living that out? And then how do we balance that with anti-hustle culture or just working ourselves into the ground?
Yeah, what a good question. And it starts with what you asked, right? Like, how do we define excellence? Because based on the description you just gave and what I went through personally and what my clients go through, we have excellence and hard work in the same basket, right? In order to be excellent, I have to hustle, right? Ultimately, to just boil it down. And when we talk about excellence, we talk about excellence in alignment with yourself, right? Excellence in adhering to your own standards. And so sometimes your own standards are, I don't work on the weekends. Or sometimes your own standards are, I don't take calls after this time, or, whatever those may be. So excellence for me is really about being in alignment with the highest and best version of yourself. And it is not required to work yourself into the ground to achieve excellence. Excellence is an inner state, right? It's an energy. It's the way we move through the world. It's a standard that we hold, and we can hold that standard in our self-care. We can hold that standard in our work. We can hold that standard in our social lives, right? So to me, it's excellence in the idea of, are you honoring yourself every day? Not excellence in the idea of, did you work yourself into the ground today?
I love that. And I just have this kind of phrase come to mind where you can't define it, but you know it when you see it.
Mm.
And I feel like living in alignment is one of those
Yeah.
where it's hard to define, but you know it when you see it and you feel it.
Yeah.
That being said, Ryann, I'm going to ask you to try to
Yeah.
define
Yeah.
or just explain
Yeah.
what that feels like and looks like when you are living in alignment with yourself.
The way I describe alignment is when it feels effortless and it feels good and it feels fun and it feels inspired. And so again, a lot of people struggle with how do I do that as it relates to hard work? Because you can find alignment in hard work, right? Like you can find alignment in that if you enjoy it. Like I grew up an athlete. So like for me, you worked hard when you trained. You ran harder, you trained harder, and but that was an aligned feeling for that season of life, right? Like I loved that training. I loved leaving the gym exhausted. I loved winning. So to me, in that season of life, that was alignment. Now I'm in my 40s. I have two small children, and alignment to me is we don't take calls past 4 o'clock because that's when my kids come home and I'm 100% present for them. So I think it's the reason why we can't define alignment is because I think alignment looks different in different seasons of life and also looks different in different areas of your life. So how do we know when we're aligned? It's that thing that you can do for hours and like get caught up in it. Like, oh shit, I've been doing this for how long? I gotta go. I gotta move. Like it's that feeling of I'm making a lot of effort, but my goodness, it feels good in my body. So I always say alignment is a body feeling, right? It is the feeling of where I am right now feels good. It feels challenging but fun, or it feels, effortless but exhausting. And it really is about, are you honoring yourself? When you are honoring yourself, you are in alignment. And sometimes, again, that could be logging off and going to take care of yourself, or working a little longer to finish that project because the fire in your belly won't allow you to stop.
You started to give us some kind of comparisons or like being on the fence. And
Yeah.
of course, I was just binging your content, which is beautiful and so binge worthy.
Mhm.
And you have a post that really talks about you can't have like the relationship, the fun, sexy relationship when you are always, I don't want to say insulting, but kind of giving criticism to your partner. And this
Yeah.
list of those, like if you're doing this, if you want this, but you're doing this, you're out of alignment.
Yeah.
I would love to hear,
Yeah.
obviously I butchered some of those,
It's okay. It's okay. Right.
if they end statements, but I would love to hear more about
Yeah.
that from you.
I use the word alignment to mean in alignment with the highest and best version of ourselves. And so let's use the relationship as an example. If your desire is, I want to have this really sexy, passionate relationship with my partner, I cannot honor that and be pissed off and angry and mad at him all the time because he didn't take the trash out and he didn't do this and he didn't do that. He didn't text me on time this morning. And, I didn't like his attitude. So to me, it's a moment by moment choice. And I'm not saying this doesn't mean that we never get annoyed or frustrated with our partners, right? Like we're humans having a human experience, but it's where is your focus? Where is your attention? So to me, that is the difference. If we say, hey, Teresa, I really want this incredible relationship, but then I'm going to go talk to every friend who will listen to me about what a lazy POS my partner is. And I'm going to whine about it and complain about it. And every time he text messages me, I'm going to roll my eyes. I'm going to get frustrated. So to me, the and is where is your focus, right? Because we always get what we're looking for. So if you are constantly looking for all of the reasons why your partner isn't meeting your expectations, you're only going to find more of that. So you can't focus on that and get your achieved result. And that's in any area of life, right? That could be our business. Again, that could be our health. That could be our relationships, but we get what we focus on. And so if we focus on all the things in our life that are not going well, or all the ways that we're not getting what we want, or other people aren't meeting our needs and expectations, all we're doing is amplifying that particular energy. And my suggestion is for anybody who is looking for, that shift is find something you like. And in the beginning, sometimes it's hard, right? Like if you're in a day where you've been in all this momentum of how maybe you and your partner got in a fight this morning and now it's 3 o'clock in the afternoon and it went from like an argument over what's for dinner to like, and he doesn't do this and he doesn't do that. Like, that momentum, you know what I'm talking about because you've been fighting him in your head all day long, even though you haven't actually spoken to him. And again, we do this in all areas of life. We've built all this momentum. So then we go home and then we snap at them and then we're mad at them and then we're frustrated at them and then we're slamming doors and all of those things. It's a conscious choice to be, you know what, right now I'm feeling kind of frustrated at my partner. And if I'm really honest, there's no reason for it, right? Like I'm just building stories in my head. I'm going to choose to, when's the last time you did something nice for me? Or what do I really love about the way he takes care of me? Or what is one thing he does always do around the house that makes me feel really great? And what we choose to focus on expands, and then we build the momentum in the opposite direction.
That's so powerful. And just reminds me so much of why I even started this podcast to explore how do I stop those paths of building my own shitty life,
Yeah.
right? Like, how
Yes.
do I not become a person who is focused on the negative and complaining all the time? And it's like we have hard days. Those are going to happen. So, how in my hard days can I
Mhm.
not make the next day worse or that day worse? And kind of sit in, like, even with my partner, what I do is I just say, like, I'm feeling grumpy
Yeah,
because it's not ever, he's actually like a little too perfect. It's alarming, right? But it's like if I wanted to, I could find things that are
of course.
wrong. But mostly, if I do find something that is wrong, it has almost nothing to do with him. And it
Yeah.
has everything to do with I woke up and didn't feel like I had enough sleep, and so I'm grumpy, or I have things to do that don't feel aligned. And it's like you said, it's building this momentum. And
Mhm.
how can I practice and get better at having the thought,
Yeah.
right? The first thought's going to come, but how can I capture that and have the second thought be something I take ownership of?
Yeah, I love this so much, and I think that is such a perfect example of really the whole picture of the work that we do at Soul Charge is the idea of we get to choose when wake up in the morning, right? I woke up grumpy and I get to choose to stay down the grumpy trail or to see that I'm grumpy and make a different choice. And in that choice and in what we focus on literally changes our entire day. But the way there's a couple things happening here. First and foremost, it's the awareness of realizing what our thoughts are, right? Like we think, depending on the data, between 50 and 90,000 thoughts a day, 90 to 95% of them are on autopilot, right? They're things we thought yesterday. So the first thing is the awareness. And again, you nailed it in the feeling. For me, it's the feeling. If I wake up feeling a little bit anxious. And then it's observing your thoughts without subscribing to them, right? So, oh yeah, I'm over here spinning this story about this guy or whatever being a total pain, but he's really not. Like those are just my thoughts and I can choose different thoughts. And this isn't, I also want to be careful because some people get confused of this idea of like, oh, I don't want to gaslight myself and I don't want to honor my feelings. But to your point, this is not a moment where you have really big feelings that you're not honoring. This is your brain taking you for a ride. And there is a difference between those two things, right? There is a moment when you're like, I am genuinely hurting or sad or mad or angry or whatever, but just I woke up on the wrong side of the bed is not a feeling we need to honor. It is a thought pattern we need to change. And I think that that is very important. So the first step is awareness. The second step is realizing I can choose something different. I can choose what I think, and what I think dictates how I feel. So I can continue down this path of least resistance and bitch, moan, and complain, or I can tell myself I have an opportunity to tell a different story. And for me, what works best in the very tactical how to is to change the topic altogether. So say you're
Mm.
frustrated about your business, right? Like maybe you're frustrated with you're prepping for a Black Friday sale, right? The time we're recording this, we're working up to that. And maybe your sales page isn't coming together right, or something doesn't feel good. And all those different things. We don't want to stay focused on that, right? Because again, what we focus on expands. For me, sometimes I'll change the topic in my head, like just like we're changing the channel on the TV, right? Like I no longer want to think about this because it's not making me feel good. And I can't find a better feeling thought in this moment. So what I'm actually going to do is think about something else. And I can choose to think about my kids, or choose to think about what a beautiful day it is, or turn on the radio and do something, listen to music or something. But to me, the most important thing is A, being aware, and B, realizing that we get to choose our thoughts. We are not our thoughts. We are the thinker of our thoughts. And it's so mind bending and weird, but it's true. And most of us believe, at least for me, until I discovered this work, just, who knows where thoughts come from, but they were just things that I, subscribed to, but we can subscribe to different thoughts. So the tactical application is be aware of it, honor it, right? See it. Ooh, yeah, no, I've got some momentum going in this direction about this poor guy who, like you said, is actually a really great dude. And it's really just because I'm cranky or triggered or taking, my frustration from something yesterday and bringing it into my relationship. And instead I'm going to change the channel. And again, you can make it about your partner and you can get some positive momentum there, or you can choose, if you can't get there, like in your body, choose a different topic, change a channel, think about something that makes you feel good. Think about an upcoming trip you have planned, or, again, the holidays are coming up. What are you looking forward to? And those types of things. It's really choosing what we put our attention on.
Yeah, I have been doing a lot of work on that lately.
Mm-hmm. So good.
And I am going to be brutally honest and say that even sometimes when
Yeah.
I try to change the channel,
Yeah.
it flips back as soon as I stop
Mm-hmm.
like as soon as I stop focusing. And so I've learned from the internet some rules. One is don't trust your brain after 9 p.m. And
Ooh.
now that we're both in the Midwest and the sun is setting at 5 or whatever, I'm like, if it's dark out, I do not trust. It could be the middle of the day and gloomy.
Yeah. Yep.
If it is dark out, I do not trust the thoughts in my brain. I
Yeah.
cannot own them. They'll happen and I have to just allow them or try to
Mm.
change the channel. And then sometimes also it's like you need to sleep, eat, or take a shower. Like
Amen.
there's just sometimes my channel will not stay changed.
Mm-hmm.
And learning to have grace with myself and
Amen.
still not be attached when that channel keeps wanting to change back.
And if I can, I'm going to tell you why that happens, just so you guys
Please.
kind
I
of
love the
understand.
free coaching I get when I have amazing guests on.
So again, most of our thoughts are habits, right? So when we can't change our thoughts or the channel keeps flipping back, it's only because that has more momentum, right? We've given it more attention. So, scientifically it's neural pathways, right? If we think of neural pathways as as a highway, and the thoughts you think all the time, like we're looking at like a Los Angeles freeway, right? Like 12 lanes across, it is free reign here and one without traffic. But here in the Midwest, our freeways sometimes don't have traffic, right? And we can go through them as fast as possible. And because that's comfortable. But sometimes when we're trying to find new thoughts or new ideas, it's like taking a hard right into a cornfield and trying to drive your car through it. And so it feels harder because there's not 12 lanes of highway and consistently doing the same thing over and over again. It's essentially a habit. Just like you roll out of bed and brush your teeth and go to the bathroom and pour your cup of coffee in the same sequence every morning, your thoughts are the same exact thing. So again, acknowledging I am not my thoughts. This is just a habit. And again, if we're struggling to change the channel, sometimes things like distraction, are my physical needs met? Do I need to go for a walk? Or sometimes asking yourself the question, why? Why is this? Why can't I change the channel? And exactly like you said, sometimes it's realizing, oh, I'm just in a bad mood. Or sometimes it's really, actually, there is something really bothering me in this situation that needs to be addressed. But as long as we meet it with curiosity and not resistance, right? You've probably heard before, what
Mm.
you resist persists. So if you're like, no, go away, no, go away, no, go away, like that's not going to work. It's seeing it for what it is of, oh, these are just habit thoughts. My brain just chooses these thoughts first because they're most in line with what I think about most often. And so, of course, changing my thoughts, just like building a new highway, is challenging and uncomfortable. Probably has some bumps and bruises in it, right? But that's what I'm doing. And to me, it's this is a very dramatic phrase, but I was actually a TikTok video. I learned most things in life on TikTok, where somebody was talking about something and it was like, you have to do this as if your life depends on it. And I'm like, holy shit, controlling our brain and controlling our thoughts is something we have to do as if our life depends on it, because our life does depend on it, because our life is exactly what we choose to focus on. So it does, our life, the quality of our life does genuinely depend on whether or not we lazily let our brain continue to build momentum in a direction we don't want to go, or we choose, I'm going to take this beat up gravel path, and our little Midwest hearts just love that, right? But I'm just going to take this gravel beat up path and figure it the heck out, because my life does depend on whether or not I choose. And eventually your brain will fall in line, right? It's just used to doing whatever it wants because you've never tried to control it before. Like I have children, they're 5 and 7, but like trying to control a toddler, it's not a thing. You can't control a toddler. You just can't. But that doesn't mean that the toddler's wrong or broken or anything. She just needs to learn new skills. And that's what you're doing. I'm learning a new skill. And just like when learning to read, which again, I have kids learning to do that, learning to run a business, learning how to write social media content, learning how to have conversations with your accountant about whatever, learning how to set yourself up financially for success with taxes. They're all new skills. None of them are comfortable, but we learn them because we know the results are going to get them. If we were that committed to the skills of managing our brains, our lives would be very different.
Life is the stories you tell yourself.
Amen.
That is a mantra that I picked up probably when I was, I don't know, 18, 19, and has gotten me through, right? It's gotten me to here, and we'll see where I go next.
Said that to me a little earlier. Seriously.
Well, I don't even know where I first heard that. And I've repeated it so many times now that like the first memories of it are gone.
Yeah.
But it is true, and it is so simple, but that doesn't mean it's easy, and it doesn't mean it happens the first time. And like you're saying, it is this skill that we have to continuously commit to and then give ourselves grace to when we are less than perfect at it.
Well, I think it actually just created some content around this idea that like we're so willing to invest time and energy in tactical skills, right? We'll spend time reading, we'll spend time studying, we'll invest in courses, we'll listen to podcasts, we'll listen to books to learn the skills needed to be better business owners. And if we took that same level of intensity and commitment to learning business and moved it over to learning ourselves, not only would our businesses thrive, our lives would be better, which is ultimately what we're here to talk about, right? Like how do we find that balance between excellence and achievement and honoring yourself and self-care, it's, you got to honor yourself, and you honor yourself just like you honor your business. That's why so many people are so out of balance, Teresa, which obviously you see because of what you talk about here on the show. But that's why, because all of our attention is on business, 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 business. How do I get better at business? How do I become a better marketer? How do I get more clients? How do I increase my reach? How do I hire my next person? And all of our attention is there. And we've given ourselves no attention at all. And then we're like, oh, I don't have time for that. I got to focus on the business. And we wonder why so many people are unhappy and burn out.
I have this theory that, and it's kind of in line with what you're saying, that we actually are using a lot of that. And it's really exactly what you're saying.
Yeah.
But we use the business books and the
Mhm.
podcasts,
Mhm.
and we think that it's learning business skills,
Mhm.
but we're never doing them. We are only listening to them. And so we're not really learning them.
Yeah.
And I find myself doing this too, where like a few years ago, I think it was like 2020, I read like 24
Mhm.
books, right?
Yeah.
How much time did I spend implementing any of that?
Right.
Right? Yes, I learned stuff. I heard it. I didn't put it into practice. I wasn't
Mhm.
implementing it. And so much of even learning business skills is sitting down and doing the hard thinking. Like when I'm like, I have hard work to do, it's not actually hard work. It's hard thinking. Like I
Yeah.
have to sit and think hard. And I think that's what you're getting at,
Yeah.
where so often we avoid it and we
Yeah.
just listen to somebody tell us something and then
Right.
get mad that we don't know how to do it, or that
Yeah.
when we do it, when
Right.
we make the post following all the advice, it doesn't go viral.
Sure. Well, and because again, that puts all the power outside of us,
Mm.
right? When we focus on learning new skills and learning from other people, it's got this energy behind that person knows more than I do. Therefore, I'm going to do what that person says to do, even though that thing is not aligned with me. And I'm going to give you a very specific example. So I made my first $1 million as a business owner using a strategy called the live launch method that I learned from my very first business coach. So for my online entrepreneur friends, right, it's this 5-day event where you show up, you teach, and ultimately you pitch your program at the end. And it served me so well, Teresa. And today you could not pay me enough money to live launch ever again, right? Because just energetically, it's not aligned. But the reason why it worked so well for me is because I believed in it. I did it. I showed up, I studied, I executed, and I believed in it. And so it worked for me. But there were people who would join that program and they would get on coaching calls and they would talk about like they were fighting the system. I'm like, you paid somebody to teach you a system. And now you're telling me all the reasons why you don't like the system and why you don't like live video and you don't like this and you don't like this. I'm like, why the heck are you here? And it's like, well, because I want to make money. But again, it's the idea that I have to do something I don't want to do in order to be successful. And so that's oftentimes, but the belief at that time, because this was pre kind of my awakening in the work I do now, my belief was not in myself. My belief was in the system. And I believed that that system worked because that woman told me that it would work and it worked for her. So it worked for me. I bought into her. I bought into that belief and I made something happen from it. But other people bought that same program and didn't have that same result. And it just goes to show that it is where our attention is and where our buy-in is. And now, instead of buying into other people's strategies, I now tap into myself for strategies. I have the skills in order to do that. I am fortunate in that way. I worked in marketing for 15 years before becoming an entrepreneur. I understand a lot about business. So I get it. If you are, a former English teacher trying to learn business, your learning curve is probably a little higher, right? Like maybe you've never truly been in the way a business operates. So you have more skills to learn. But I had to realize that I have the skills that now I just have to find the ways that are most aligned to me. And that means, and goes back to originally what we started this conversation about, is like, how do we achieve our revenue goals and what we want without burnout and without not taking care of ourselves? When we're doing things we like doing, it doesn't feel so damn heavy. We don't end our workday exhausted and burned out. Most of the time, I always say that burnout is not actually an act of working too much. It's an act of doing things that are not aligned. And this is where the 80-20 rule comes into play, right? 20% of the time we have to do stuff, right? As business owners, we have to just sometimes do stuff that we don't want to do. But if it's more than 20% of your time and energy is focused on things that are out of alignment with you, you are going to feel out of alignment. You are going to feel, and this is where the self-care thing gets a little muddy, because you can do all the self-care in the world, but if the hours you're spent working are spent working on things that don't serve you or that are not in alignment with you, you're still going to feel like crap. And that's what I think most people are missing, right? They're like, I just need to do more self-care. I just need that spa weekend. I have a client, God love her. She's in Mexico right now. And, there's all these things, but she's going to come back more stressed out than she left because a lot of the things she does in her business, she really hates. So the downtime and the expensive vacation is lovely, But if you're still going to come back to work that you don't like doing or is not aligned with you, it's still not going to feel good.
This year, so much of my self-care
Mm-hmm.
feels this year has teetered on unalignment.
Ooh.
And that's going to happen. But
Yes.
my self-care this year, more than eating well and
Yep.
actually working out, like those have been a struggle because
Mm-hmm.
what I've had to spend my energy doing is finding where I'm out of alignment in my business. And the self care has been okay, how do I hire a team? How do I get better at leadership? How do I find out why I'm so burnt out? And I went through um, basically went through all of the potential reasons I could be burnt out. And then finally, my coaches helped me see it was the one I was in denial with and not even processing or like considering as the reason I was burnt out. Right.
Yeah.
But it was like I went through like client by client being like, okay, what if I have somebody doing more of this work? Why am I behind on this? And kind of just this season of exploring
Mm-hmm.
and looking back, it was like that was the self care of recognizing where I was,
Mm-hmm.
recognizing that it was okay to be there, but I didn't want to continue to be there. It wasn't
Mm-hmm.
going to be healthy for me.
Sure.
And then trying to figure out how do I make adjustments? Where do
Yeah.
the adjustments need to be made?
Yeah.
And not just being like, well, if I just worked out more, if I just like made time to work out more, then,
Right.
I would be more clear headed. And like sometimes, yes. And to some extent, like I'm working on that, but
Sure.
that was never going to solve the true
Exactly.
problem I was having.
Absolutely. I mean, it is an alignment game. We are playing an alignment game. So all of the tactics and the strategies that we have to take care of ourselves or to run businesses are just that. They're tactics and strategies, and none of them are going to outpace misalignment. Period.
I am curious when you start working with somebody, and
Mm.
I almost am thinking like kind of in the beginning when somebody
Yep.
comes to you
Yep.
for coaching and
Yeah.
consulting, where do you start? Like how do you get a grasp on where they are and how to get them where they're going?
So the first question I ask every single client is, what do you want? And their immediate answer is, let me tell you what I don't want. I don't want this, and I don't want that. I don't want this, and I don't want that. And I'm like, fantastic. Now that we got that out of the way, what do you want? So we really start with the first step in kind of our process in the soul charge model is identify, right? Identify how you got here, but oftentimes it starts with identifying what do you want? Because again, a whole lot of people can give you the laundry list of things that they don't want. Like a lot of people, like it sounds like you're almost a little bit of an outlier where like you couldn't find your misalignment. Most people, they know their misalignment. Let me tell you all the ways, Teresa, wow, this is not aligned, right? And so then it's like, okay, what's the flip side of that? I have a client right now who's a massage therapist and she doesn't want to take clients on weekends anymore. Okay, cool. I don't want to take clients on weekends anymore. What do you want? I want to work Monday through Thursday, these hours. Perfect, right? So first let's figure out what you want. And then we figure out what are all the stories you're telling yourself about why you can't have that, right?
Mm.
So for her, let's go with the scheduling. Well, some of these women, they have jobs. And so they can't just come see a massage therapist in the middle of the week and and if I want to keep that revenue and I have this one client and this other massage therapist, her hours and, so then they tell me all the reasons why they think they can't have it. And so that's always kind of the first step in our work is what do you want and what are the reasons why you think you can't have it? And then we work on reconciling those things, right? How much of that isn't true? How like this woman in particular, she's a lot of lymphatic massage, which is associated with like surgery and cancer and a lot of different things. But I'm like, these women, they're not seeing their oncologist on Saturday,
Mm.
right? They're not seeing their plastic surgeon who did their breast reconstruction on Saturday. So if lymphatic massage is part of their prescription from their doctor to recover from their surgery, they're going to have to do that during business hours too, just like they do all their other doctor's appointments. And she was kind of just like, like it's just those little tiny things that you don't even think about where you're like, well, this client asked me to work Saturday. So I said once now, and I said yes. And now I have all these Saturday clients. So for me, this starts with what do you want? And again, most people can tell me very clearly what they don't want, Teresa. They have a hard time articulating what they want. And so to anybody listening, if I ask you that question and you say, I don't really know what I want, the next question is, how do you want to feel? How do you want your life to feel? How do you want your days to feel? How do you want your business to feel? How do you want to wake up in the morning feeling? Like, what do you want the predominant feeling of your life to be? And then we start making a list of what are the things that feel that way. Oh, I really love that when I'm, on one-on-one calls with clients, or I really love that when I'm working on these types of projects, or I really love when, mentoring my team, or whatever comes up for you. And that's like, okay, cool. Again, now how do we go through and design a life or a business that aligns with those things? So that's kind of the beginning, and then starts the peeling back of the onion, right? The stories and the conditioning and the programming and the things that we've learned. But it really first starts with, what do you want? What are all the reasons you think you can't have it? And how do we reconcile those things? Because most of the time, if we're really truly honest with ourselves, I would argue that 80 to 90% of the reasons why we think we can't have it, and I'm using air quotes for those of you listening only, is just a story we're telling ourselves. Like you just said, life is a story as you tell yourself. So again, this woman's like, I can't give up these clients. This is 15% of my revenue I walk away from if I stop taking clients on Saturday. Like, yeah, cool. Or go replace them. And I understand that's scary. Flip it. You replace them or you move them.
Yeah.
They're taking you up on your Saturdays because it's available.
And it's don't tell yourself they're going to say no to moving during your business hours without asking them.
Yep.
Right? Most of the time, what we assume somebody will do is not what they actually are going to do.
Bingo.
So I already know so many people listening, myself included, are going to feel, I don't want to say like targeted or like convicted on the scheduling, because I really think it was in a coaching program, and we're in a IRL, a live retreat. We spent a few days in this group coaching program all together. And one of the other girls, one thing that she shared is, you have to prioritize rest and prioritize your time off, and then build your work schedule around that. The exact same thing that you're saying, where what do you actually want your schedule to look like? Because spoiler, you're the only one who can set it for yourself. And if it's not what you want it to be, you have to take ownership over the fact that you created it to be what you don't want it to be.
Yeah. And that's in every area of our life. It's our calendars, our business, our relationships, our health, our money. It's all wrapped up in, we created it. We created it. And the first thought that comes to mind for so many people when I say that is like, well, I would never create this on purpose. And I say, of course not. Right? Like most people just don't consciously understand creation. Right? Like, and again, what do we create with? What I said before is our attention. We create with what our attention. And I see it over and over again. I'll give you an example. I am recently divorced. Recently, it's been a year and a half. So my kids are back and forth between houses, and we have a very amicable divorce. We live 5 minutes apart. My kids are really happy and healthy. I am so lucky and fortunate. But I was never available for any other option, right? So many people are like, you're so lucky. You're so lucky. You're so lucky. And I'm like, no, I'm not lucky. I very intentionally made a choice when I got married, when I got divorced, when I chose a partner, when I chose how to co-parent, and how I wanted it to go. None of this was on accident. And even people like, we got divorced on purpose. I'm like, no. But once I realized that my relationship was no longer aligned, I had a choice. And I tried, I did the work on myself. We tried, it didn't work. And so we decided to separate, but we did it consciously, and we did it with the kids in mind. And we very clearly created a plan that we could all thrive in intentionally. We did that. I led the charge because the world was responding to me and my energy, but my ex came along for the ride because I was so convicted in, this is how this is going to go. If we're going to co-parent and raise children together, this is how this is going to look. So am I lucky? Maybe. Or did I just make some really solid conscious choices that created a life where my ex and I are in relationships where we're both happy and healthy, and our children are really happy and healthy, because that was our number one priority.
And you took ownership over doing that, and every step along the way. And I'm sure that 30-second summary doesn't give us all the insight into the hardship and how actually challenging it was, and the moments where that faltered and you had to really dig deep to keep it going. But what you did not say there at all is that it was happening to you.
Amen. Yep. Absolutely.
Mic drop.
We can be done now, Teresa. Conversation
okay.
over. You win. I'm out. No.
Well, Ryann, I happen to know that you are a master at helping people make decisions.
I am.
And one decision that I have been obsessed with is, when do you know that it's time to quit? And It's because I believe to really start something and live the life that you
Mhm.
want, the life you can be obsessed with, we have to stop doing things that aren't for us. But I would love your masterclass on decision making and
Yeah.
when somebody is, you know, very specifically, there's this story that another podcaster, a big podcaster who I no longer subscribe to. So I won't name names, but let's just say I listen to women and not men now. But he was talking about how he had a choice to make on where to move to go
Mhm.
be a professor. And it was like, okay, stay on the East Coast, go to the West Coast. And he just talked about how this decision took him like 4 months.
Mm.
And he kept wanting to go to the East Coast. His partner wanted to go to the East Coast. And he talked to everybody, right? His mentors, his friends, his family. He's asking everybody. And he was like, we're leaning towards the East Coast. We want to go to the East Coast. And then one day I decided I need to be in the West Coast. And the decision was made.
Yeah.
And in my head, I'm like, well, you didn't spend 4 months making a decision. You spent 4 months not listening to your intuition.
Bingo.
I would love your thoughts on this. Obviously, I have my opinions.
Yes. So I think you nailed it you were talking about the way this guy was making decisions. If you're making a decision for somebody else, right? Like to me, so let's talk about quitting things. When do we know it's time to quit? When the only reason you are continuing down a path is because somebody else wants you to, expects you to. What will people think? I just made a different choice. I'm going to be judged. I won't be liked. If any of those reasons those are the reasons why you're continuing to do something, quit, quit, quit. Because the truth of the matter is, the only reason you're holding on to it is because you think there is an expectation on you. And that is we call it in our world self-abandonment, right? When you say, I want this, but everybody else wants this for me, and you continue down that path, you break that trust with yourself. So the reason why it takes people so damn long to make decisions is because they've broken that trust with themselves so many times that, again, we were talking about neural pathways, or that it's a habit to defer our decisions to other people. So to me, how do we know when it's time to quit? Does this honor me? It starts with knowing where you want to go, right? Like, what do you want? Because you can't make a decision if you don't know what you want. I think that's why so many people suck at making decisions, because they're not actually clear on what they want. So if you don't because again, you only really know what you don't want. But if you haven't taken your list of don't wants and turned it into a list of do wants and created a vision from that, because to me, it's very easy to make decisions. Does it align with that vision? Yes or no? Does it align with the vision? Does it align with the goals? Does it align with the way I want my life to look and feel? Does it align with that? If the answer is yes, game on. If the answer is no. So that's when it comes to quitting. So many people refuse to quit because they don't want to be quitters, but everything they're doing is so misaligned. I'm going to tell you a story. So I started a business with a business partner. So my first iteration of my business was one I live launched in. And then in that same business, I wound up actually building a relationship with my coach at the time who taught the live launch method. And we built a sales training company together. And it took me about 4 months to realize that it was completely out of alignment. And meanwhile, Teresa, we've done I don't know, $300,000-$400,000 in sales. I think in the year that business was open, we did about $800,000 in revenue. And I knew but it took me from month 4, where I was like, this is not for me, to month 10, because all of the reasons I had to stay in that business were for other people. I was making a lot of money. I was paying other people. What is this woman going to think? What are our clients going to think? What do I do? What would I do if I wasn't doing this? And again, all these other things that were all about fear and shame and guilt and embarrassment. And what are other people going to think if I make a change? And when it came down to Ryann, what do you want? It was, again, starting with that, it was to not be in a business partner with somebody that I was not in values alignment with. That was the number one thing. So the decision became very easy at that point in time, when I knew that this was a values misalignment, and my number one priority is to be aligned with my values, which again goes to what do I know, what do I want, right? We can put what do I want and our values in the same bucket. If it's not aligned with that, it's not for me. And that's how we make decisions. But the reason why we suck at decisions is because A, we don't know what we want, and B, we make them based on other people.
That's so powerful. And I've asked probably between 20 and 30 guests this question and never got that answer. And it's, as soon as you say it, I'm like, it's so obvious,
right?
Because it is, right? Like, why didn't I leave a relationship when I felt like it wasn't the right one? Because of the other person, and because I was living somebody else's fairy tale. And why do you not quit when you want to leave a job? Oh, because of all this fear of okay, what will people think? I have to stay at a job so long for my resume. I was just talking to a recent grad yesterday, and it was the same thing of, oh, I'm supposed to figure out who I am in my 20s
No.
because everyone says you're supposed to. And I was like, no. you figure it out because you just do things. You don't have to have an answer at 22. Don't try to find the answer. Just continue to do things. And everyone is saying this thing, or there's this expectation, whether it is one human
Mm-hmm.
and it's the, one human, or it's just society's kind of like, this is what you're supposed to do.
Mm-hmm.
Even if no one around you truly believes it, there's still that internal pressure that's really the external pressure that's really the internal pressure.
Yeah, our whole model at Soul Charge is like, our goal is to help our clients be completely self-sourced. And what we mean by that is that we are our own source of love, happiness, joy, fulfillment, safety, security. All of those things exist inside of us without anything outside. And so most of the time when we're contemplating, what do I want to do with my career? Do I want to make this change in my business, that change in the business, hire this person, fire this person, all of these different things. So many of those things are just based in noise, right? Like they're just based in shoulds and have tos. And again, just this misalignment where we think I'm going to feel safe when I do this. And so this is maybe probably one of the most powerful things, and I'm glad we're bearing this at the end, that I will ever tell you. Is this idea that, so often we say, once this happens, then I'll do that, right? Once I've been at this job for a year, I'll leave. Once this business hits $1 million, then I'll do this. Once this happens, then this. And that sentence, if you're ever saying once this, then that, you are out of alignment.
Yeah. Holy, yeah.
If what you really want to do is build that course and you're not building it because Russell Brunson told you have to run $1 million through one funnel before you create another offer, it's bad news bears. Right? I have to do this first because the rules are made up. The rules are made up. Like we're all living by these arbitrary rules that some internet marketer told us we should follow, most of which are bogus.
It worked for them. You've said this multiple times today. It worked for them. It doesn't mean it's wrong for them, but it doesn't mean that because it worked for somebody else, it works for you. And Ryann, as you were just talking about that, this phrase just came into my head of imposter syndrome. So much it's those shoulds of like, okay, once I reach this level or I reach this goal, then I can do it. Because until I get there, I don't have the experience. I don't have the knowledge. Like, who am I to do that?
I actually throw a lot of rocks at the words imposter syndrome. To me, it's just, I think
do it anyway. Like, it doesn't exist. We made it up.
We gave it a name, right? We literally named our fear so then we could feel better. I just have imposter syndrome. Like, I'm just experiencing a lot of imposter syndrome. It's no, you're growing, friend, and you're trying to do something new and it feels uncomfortable. And that is okay. It's not a reason to stop. It's not a reason to stop. And I think that's it. Like, that's why I don't like that we've given it a name, because now that we've given it a name, it now becomes an excuse, right? Like once you name it, kind of the whole kind of meta concept of like nothing in life has any meaning save the meaning you give it. That fear and discomfort didn't have a name, and then we gave it a name, and now we call it a syndrome, and now people think they're sick and they can't do things because they have imposter syndrome. No, you're going into the unknown, which you're supposed to as a human, BT dubs. That's what we're here for. But it's just, to me, it becomes a cop-out and an excuse. Obviously, the physical phenomenon of feeling uncomfortable doing something new is very real. But the fact that we labeled it and made it this society-wide excuse for not chasing our dreams is what I get fired up about.
As you should. And now I will too.
She's never going to say imposter syndrome ever again. She's going to be like, you're not sick. You don't have a syndrome. Get it together.
And to be fair, whenever I do, I'm like, okay, now who cares? Do it anyway, right? And sometimes it helps, I think, to name our fear so we feel this lack of uniqueness almost. When I was talking to this recent grad yesterday, I kept being like, you are very special for a lot of reasons, but what you're feeling right now, you're not special for. Like, please don't feel like this is unique to you. These feelings of not having it figured out, these feelings of not being wanted or what did I do wrong? That's not unique to you. That is literally your brain having a thought. And now you get to decide what you do with that thought and what comes next. And so I'll push back a little bit on, I think it helps to name it so that we understand other people experience it. Sure. But I'm completely with you. It is not an excuse.
Yeah.
It's like perfectionism, right? There was this quote somebody said once that everybody is a perfectionist. Some people stopped using it as an excuse.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
think that's so like vindictive and like, oh my gosh, it hurts so bad to hear that. Same
Yeah.
with imposter syndrome. Like, yeah, everybody has it. Some people don't use it as an excuse.
Right.
And if you're doing that, that cuts deep. Like when
Yeah.
I heard those things, I'm like, oh gosh, that hits it where it hurts.
Yeah. Yeah. I think those are just words we use that are cop outs. I just can't launch that thing because I'm just such a perfectionist. And it's like, no. But again, all that, I think it all goes back to lack of clarity. Because
Mm,
when you are clear, when you know what you want, when you know what you want and you know what your values are and you know what alignment feels like, all of that stuff goes away. And it doesn't mean that you're never scared or you're never uncomfortable or you never want something to be good, but you're so on fire and passionate about what you're doing that you just need to get it out into the world. And again, whether that's a nonprofit or a business or a passion project or your family vacation or your Thanksgiving dinner, what you are passionate about, nothing can stop you from doing. So your perfectionism and your imposter syndrome, you have to ask yourself, do I like what I'm doing? Because when you're excited about it, you can't not do it. Like I can't not talk about what I talk about. I tried to stay in my sales and marketing box really hard, Teresa, really hard. And I'm like, no, because most sales and marketing problems are mindset and energetic problems. They are not enough problems. They are I care what other people think problems. They are who the hell am I to get paid that amount of money problems. They're not actually I don't know how to sell and market problems. I couldn't not do it. I couldn't not change. I consciously made a choice to quit sales and marketing because the only reason I was staying there was because it was safe.
this is about the time that I would wrap us up, but Ryan, I literally cannot stop until I ask you more about this. When you say that you are trying to stay in your lane, now I know
Yeah.
you spent 15 years in corporate
Yeah.
and then have had a few businesses that got you to the one you're
Yeah.
in now. I want to know what this journey was for you
Mhm.
to
Mhm.
understand that you were out of alignment, to
Yeah.
start to recognize what you did want. When
Mhm.
did that journey start? I'm always curious how people experience corporate life because I've never had it.
So it started, I'll tell you, I can condense it pretty well. So I was 34 years old, sitting in my lovely corner office as the director of sales for digital marketing agency. I had just bought all new furniture and all the things. And I just like was 4 months into this job. I just had a baby, was back to work. It was like my dream job. And I looked around and I was like, this ain't it. Like this cannot possibly be like all God put me on this planet to do. And that was kind of step one. And through that, I thought it was an industry change, started networking, and ultimately stumbled into entrepreneurship, online entrepreneurship, consulting, and coaching. So, woohoo, built a 6-figure business while pregnant, while working a full-time job, leave the corporate world and go on to do literally $1 million in sales in about 2 years. And again, making a lot of money. Life is really good, but I'm still not happy. Then launched the business with the business partner. That goes belly up in the most catastrophic way. And so finally, after these, what felt like 3 big crashes, right? The career, my business, and this business partnership, at some point in time, the common denominator is me,
Hmm.
right? Like at some point in time, I am the only one present in all of these situations. And it is, why do I keep creating these situations that most people would really like to have, and I don't like them. And so then, of course, I went on this beautiful guilt and shame spiral of what is wrong with me and why can't I just be happy and why is enough never enough. And it led to discovering the work I now do and my mentor and now good friend in Soul Charge. And so when I met Stacy, I was at the peak of my Social Sellers Academy's days, which is my sales training company, and at the most unhealthy and unhappy as I've ever been, making more money than I ever had in my life. And I was just like, enough is enough. And she was like, I can help you fix that. And I was like, take all of my money and fix it. And I wish I could tell you that it was a very linear track, and it wasn't, right? It was really pulling apart. I had my identity and my worthiness wrapped up in accomplishment and achievement and in business and money. And I was safe and I was enough when I was doing these things. And it had literally I had my safety outside of my body in my business. And that's what started the journey, and pulling that apart and reconnecting with myself and really truly understanding the power, like you talked about, the power of our stories, the power of our thoughts, our ability to create. What is happiness? Why do you want the things that you want? Right? Like I had these big dreams for, a G-Wagon and this and all the other things. And like, no shade if that's your jam, but I thought about it. I was like, I have 2 small kids. I don't want an effing G-Wagon. That is actually not what I want at all. I just thought I should because they're in Facebook ads. of successful people. And I'm like, I don't want a $250,000 car that my kids are going to get goldfish all over. That is just not for me in this season of life, maybe later, who knows? But it was really starting to question, why do you want the things that you want? And the answer for all of us is we think it's going to make us feel something different. The money is going to make us feel different. The car is going to make us feel different. The relationship, the body, it's all going to make us feel different. And the only way that we feel different is if we make different choices. Like those things are all inside things. Our feelings are fully based on our thoughts. So it is the thought of, when I am wealthy, I will be safe, that makes you feel safe. But you can choose to think safe thoughts right now. You can choose to feel safe. I'm sitting here in my office, in my home, and I feel extremely safe. And it has nothing to do with my bank balance. Or I feel enough, even though I quit work at 4:00 every day because that's when my kids come home. Even the days they're at their dad's, I still stop at 4 because that's just what I do, right? Because doing more, there's no prize for that. So for me, it was really understanding that what I was chasing was a feeling that those things were never going to give me.
Love that you gave more words to this thought that I've been really pondering lately of, why do so many people work for a few decades and then wake up and realize they're miserable? And the way I've been thinking about it is because they're chasing somebody else's dream. It's a dream that was handed to them in a Facebook ad.
Yeah.
But it gives it so much more context when we talk about it as, it's not just chasing somebody else's dream, right? It's actually the emotions that are attached to that dream and the feelings that are attached to that. And good marketing sells you a feeling, right?
100%.
Like that's what this podcast, I'm like, I want to sell curiosity and wonder and the what ifs, right? Like that's what I'm selling. Hopefully you're buying it, but you know, Apple sells trends and you can go on and on. And so it's like, that's what we're really buying, is the emotion. And it makes so much sense that we chase these dreams and these possessions that don't make us happy, because we don't actually we buy the feeling, we don't actually get the feeling from them.
Because the feeling comes from inside. The feeling is literally a chemical reaction in your body. There is nothing outside of you that can create that but your thoughts. You are literally just responding to external stimuli. That is what is creating the feeling, the chemical concoction that happens in your body when you observe something. That's what we're all chasing, is it comes down to that. And we can choose to feel that happiness and fulfillment and love without achievement. For me, it's in my kids and being outside and being me and doing things I enjoy and working with, like, that's the fun part too. Like my work is wrapped up in that because I do genuinely love my work, but my work is no longer my identity. Like my business and my success was my identity. Without my business and without that success, who is Ryann? It's kind of, we talked about my name change, like going back to my maiden name. And it was because my married name is the identity of that woman who needed somebody outside of her to make her feel like she was good enough. And this version of me, which kind of relates back to kind of the whole inner child story, right? Like going back to my, you know, the little girl in me who I told you before we pushed record was just a total badass. Like that girl was so fearless. And I'm like, I'd like to wear that identity today. And again, I'm not perfect. And if you're looking for mentorship and somebody who's like, I don't think Jesus is available for coaching, but it's an ongoing journey, but it all comes back to, where is your worthiness? And if it is in the car, the business, the money, the achievement, the accolades, the visibility, you're always going to be chasing something.
So good. So true. And so simple. It makes so much sense, but it is really hard to live out, especially if you're surrounded by no one else doing it and no one else showing you the way.
But what's really beautiful is, again, we go to universal law, we get into physics a little bit, and we talk about things like the law of vibration and the law of attraction. The more that you step into that energy, the more people you're going to find. In the beginning, it's very lonely because, again, most of the people around you, most of us are producing what we're observing. We observe and we respond and we observe and we respond and we observe and respond. And the law of vibration, the law of attraction, make sure that we just see more of what we observe and respond to. When we start changing our response, right, our vibration changes and we attract different things. And so in the beginning, there is this thing that happens where we have to let go of friends and relationships. Some people come up with us. Sometimes it's really beautiful. Like when you step up, some people step up with you, but it is very lonely. But eventually the law of vibration, the law of attraction are going to work in a way where you're going to start to attract those people too. So you don't have to, you know, in the beginning, it's going to feel weird because what you've always done and the people you've always hung out with are probably not going to feel good anymore. But that if you continue to set the intention that you're looking for people that are like-minded and you're looking for people that are whatever, then you're going to find that as well. So I will give you that. It is a little lonely in the beginning, but just while you're kind of up leveling. And then once you're at that new energetic level, you're going to start to attract different people who are, you know, who want to who want what you want, right? And so I have found that in every experience of my life. When I wanted to be sad, mad, angry, frustrated, broke, and mad, I found plenty of those people. And when I decided that I wanted to be happy and fulfilled and joyful in most of what I did, I found those people too. But there is certainly a transition. I would agree with that wholeheartedly.
Ryann, I literally do not want this conversation to end. I'm like, I could hang out with you all day.
We're going to make that happen. So like, you're only 3 hours away. There's going to be a reason. You're going to invite me to some event in Omaha, or I'm going to invite you to something in Kansas City, and we're going to get to hang.
Yeah, we're going to make it happen. We will wrap up this episode. I have some final questions for you.
I'm ready.
I'm really curious, when it does come to keeping yourself aligned and your self-care, what are you obsessed with? What helps you along the way?
So my number one obsession is my morning walk outside. It is pretty much, I'm going to use the word non-negotiable, but also Midwest winters, but it is 90% of the time. If it is, the only time I won't go outside is when it is cold and windy. If it's just cold, I will go. But if it's cold and windy, but I will still get the steps in, because for me, I use my walk. Like, I don't tend to put my AirPods in. Like, I just walk and think and daydream in a positive way. Like, this is what's going to happen today. And I'm so excited, like intentionally start training my brain for the stories, creating those new neural pathways of how I want my life to look, right? Life is just the stories we tell ourselves. I use my morning walk to tell myself the stories of how I want my life to look. So to me, that is my number one. And like I said, the only way I don't go outside is if it's just like really cold and windy, and I do still have a treadmill, and I still will do the walk, because it is like my mental health appointment with myself every day.
I love that. I'm also a huge walker, and the last 2 nights have been really hard to get out there, and they're the first like cold walks.
I know,
but
yeah. And it's dark.
They happened. Yeah.
Yeah.
Speaking of weather changes, you're in Kansas City, I'm in Omaha, basically, like we said, within a few hours of each other, and we are fully in fall. What are you currently obsessed with and living out this fall?
See, again, for us, it's adventuring in the woods. Like, that's our favorite things to do. There's a lot of really great parks here in the fall, and I've totally turned my kids into adventure junkies. They have their water backpacks, right? And there's always snacks in there, and like their hoodies and their hiking shoes, and like we go get lost in the woods, and I love it. I mean, we do it in the summer too, but in the fall, it just feels magical, right? Like the leaves and being outside, and just to me, it's the connection to nature of like the renewal, right? It just reminds us of the normal flow of life. And so for me, doing it in the fall, wearing a stocking cap and, a jacket, being outside, and there's nobody else out there because everybody else is too cold. And it's just really lovely. It's like my favorite time of year, and the kids live for it too, because they're like, where are we hiking this weekend, Mom? And it's fun. We just find random parks and go play in the woods. That is my favorite part of fall.
I'm obsessed with that as well. I absolutely adore that. My last question is, what are you obsessed with in Kansas City?
Ooh, Kansas City is such a fun city. And what I am really obsessed with in Kansas City is community. And it's related to sports, but it's one of my favorite things about Kansas City is I used to travel for a living. And when you would go through airports, you always knew where the Kansas City gate was, because everybody's in red, or when the Royals are doing well, everybody is in blue. And it just creates this community. Like when you see people with Kansas City hats or a Chiefs shirt or whatever, like it just creates so much connection. And then when you live here and everybody's like that, it's like just so beautiful to see the way, and I'm not even really a professional sports fan. What I enjoy about it is the way it creates connection, right? Like just, it's the shared thing that we all have in common that we're all doing, and it allows you to move through the world not feeling so alone. And I tell people that about Kansas City all the time. Like, you're never going to meet nicer people. And if you want to feel like $1,000,000, put on a Chiefs hat or a Royals hat, and people will talk to you and they'll want to know about, like, I just love that about our city. And I've always loved that. But it was like noticing one time I was connecting through an airport, right? Like, I think I was flying to Philly, and I had to stop in Nashville to get to Philly from Kansas City. Kansas City, everybody's in red, right? You get to the Philly gate, nobody's in Eagles gear, nobody at all. Like, I'm like, but I don't even know if the Eagles are any good this year. Like I said, I'm not big on that. But even when the Chiefs were bad, even when the Royals were bad, it was still always representation of the city. And I love that about Kansas City, and I always have.
I feel very similar about Nebraska.
That's so cool.
It is very much, when you're in the Nebraska gate. It's so almost fun. Like just the energy is more kind. Like it's just like all of a sudden, I wouldn't feel bad talking to anyone. I wouldn't feel like a bother if I needed anything. Like you already kind of feel that sense. And as a girly who does love football and is a Chiefs, it's not my team, but a Chiefs supporter before Taylor Swift entered the picture. You couldn't have chose two better teams to mention together, the Chiefs and the Eagles, because of the Kelsey brothers.
Right,
So
right. I didn't mean to. It was just that was my example.
I know you said that, and I was like, it's just on the brain. They go together now.
Right.
Well, like I said, I could talk to you forever, and this has been such a just powerful and really like feel good in the most genuine way. Not
Sure.
so thank you so much for coming
Of
on
course.
Becoming Obsessed.
I'm so
It was
delighted.
my pleasure to have you. Ryann, if somebody is listening and wants to connect with you, wants to work with you, how can they connect with you?
Yeah, great question. So you can check out Soul Charge at soulcharge.com. And that banner on our homepage actually features our 7-day experiment. And our 7-day experiment is our way of exposing people to the work we do. Transformational coaching sometimes feels a little intangible. What is that? What does that mean? What are we going to be doing? And so we walk people through a 7-day experiment to really illustrate how truly powerful we are and how quickly we can make change in our life with very focused attention. So, and we use the word experiment specifically because it encourages us to play and think differently, but it is also about the result. Like we've had people create really cool stuff in 7 days. So that's a great way to kind of get into the work. If you just want to follow me on social media, it's at Ryann Gillen Official on TikTok and Instagram. And I'm Ryann Gillen on Facebook and LinkedIn, and I hang out on all the socials.
Amazing. If you joined us today and you were listening, definitely go connect with Ryann. You are going to love her as much as I do. I already know it. And if this episode helped you, entertained you, text it to a friend, share it on your story, tag us, get involved in the conversation. We would love to have you. And it helps us get the word out about becoming obsessed. All right, now let's go get obsessed.
Thanks, Teresa.